Hey, Internet, it's Andrew with the Knights of the Drunk Watch, and we're here to talk about Lovecraft Country, Season 1, Episode 6, Meet Me in Deagu.
Hey, everybody. If this is your first time with the Knights of the Drunk Watch, please hit that subscribe button below. Hit the notifications bell so you can be notified every time we drop one of these videos. And if you feel so inclined, we do have our link to Patreon below where you can get exclusive access to all sorts of crazy fun stuff. Andrew.
So we are the Knights of the Drunk Watch, and
now
our talk begins. This episode was pretty specific, so we get introduced to Gia.
Surprise.
Well,
Surprise.
we get basically the whole story, or a whole bunch of it.
Right.
Yeah. It was the best kind.
We basically get her whole story, I think, yeah.
Yeah, not even like an introduction. It was bringing us up to now. Yeah.
I think this was the best kind of exposition dump. Like, this was like Lost levels of exposition dump. It was like great story. You knew where you were. You knew what was happening. Like, the second I saw Tick, I was like, this is not how I expected. But for her specifically, I feel like her character, we needed this episode. Like, they've been giving her to us over and over again, and we needed to know where this was.
I read an article by Esquire, and they screwed up the numbers, and it pissed me off. She had to consume the souls of 100 men, correct?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yes. Yeah, because the article kept saying 99. Tick was the 99th, and it's like, no, he was the 100th.
He was the 100th.
Yeah. She's like some kind of fox, multi-tailed demon inside the body of a woman who was raped by her stepfather and was called forth to take revenge on her stepfather being an asshole.
Didn't she say the mom picked out the dad for that purpose? She knew when she picked the stepdad that he was going to rape her and allowed
vice versa. Like the abusive dad picked her because she was single with a child, didn't have any honor, didn't have any money. So he picked her knowing she would allow it to happen.
Like he would get away with it. Not that she yeah.
I mean, Misha Green knows how to write fucking characters.
I mean, that's how do you pitch that character? Like, that is just culturally interesting.
This is wholly original content. Well, I don't know. This is coming from the book. The character isn't a Lovecraft character. The stereotype.
No. Right.
But none of these characters are Lovecraft characters.
I believe what we're all talking about and why we like this show so well. And you can see it unfold, and we caught on to it very quick after 2 or 3 episodes. We're getting a book. Each season is a book, and the more talented writers, story crafters, what they do, they tell you 10 stories that maybe at the end you find out, you piece them all together. Oh, boom, they're all related. This is obviously happening now. This was a great example of getting
amazing that Misha Green can write these characters. And especially like Gia, who's a literal monster, but for some reason we care for her the most.
But aren't humans the real monsters?
Always, every time.
Yeah, I think that's the whole point of the whole show.
And I think that's part of it too. So just cut in. Quick, I'll be good to you. It's like she is the real monster, but she's not, because that's just her nature. Whereas the humans, they have the choice, and we'll get to Tick later. They have a choice. Yes, she can maybe not do it, but it's still kind of, it's like the scorpion on the back of the frog, when the scorpion stings the frog. That's just the scorpion's nature.
It was really nice to see this episode from her perspective as opposed to Tick's. Like, because we've been following Tick this entire series, and though we've been questioning, and we'll get back to Tick like you said, like, we have a certain opinion of Tick, but seeing the story completely from the outside, it was so parenthetical. Like, it was like beginning, middle, end, just fit somehow perfect to the larger scope of this story, but was still a beautiful entirely on its own because it was told from her perspective. We got almost everything we need, except now we don't know what comes next.
Like, it does such a good job of building the world out, because like we are starting to see what the magic looks like. Like, we've been told it's magic, and now last week we get like shapeshifters. Now we're getting like the fox lady. Like, we're starting to build out like across cultures that there is a lot of like naturally occurring magic that's happening everywhere. And that brings us back to like, we were talking during this episode that they had such a connection because they're both monsters. Like we think that Tick has something inside him. And then also if he's now that attracted to Letty, that would go with Zach's thing that she also has something going on.
So Gia has a penchant for Judy Garland.
Yes.
I love that opening scene. I'm sorry it wasn't a dream. I really would love to get up and dance in a theater like that. I don't want to do it because they're doing it. I want to do it because I'm the only one in the theater.
I mean, you can rent out a theater for like $150 now.
That won't work either.
I have some questions. I want to know, she's at 99. What happens when 100 hits? We've been told something by the mother, which I don't believe whatsoever is going to happen.
I don't think that was deceptive. I mean, it could be, but I mean, when they go back to the witch, she's like, "You've come back and you're one short." You know, I mean, I think the whole point was the mother went to the witch, made a deal, called forth the demon into the body of her daughter, and said the payment was she has to take 100 souls to become human again.
Yeah.
And she stopped one short because, I mean, I think that's the point. She didn't stop one short of not becoming human again because they lied to us. She stopped one short of becoming human again.
But I have a feeling that witch, she said something, you haven't even been consumed by the darkness yet. I feel like the witch and the mom have ulterior motives that Gia has no clue about whatsoever.
Well, I mean, I could see it be something like Pet Sematary, like you get your daughter back, but she's evil, you know? I mean, or, you know, she'll dump you and leave you in a ditch, you know?
I wanted to go back to the mother-daughter situation. The daughter wasn't dying. The mother made the choice to put a demon in her daughter's body instead, sending her daughter somewhere to kill her husband. And of course, to stop the abuse. Yeah. But essentially, she killed her own daughter with the hopes that once it's done with its thing, her daughter would return.
Kumiho. God, it's so hard.
Which wouldn't return.
I think I have to go back and watch it to find out if she actually died or if her mother's decision. Yeah, I was under the impression that she had died from something.
It kind of went. I kind of went back and forth of whether he just raped her or whether he murdered her. But I mean, I think the daughter,
I never got the murder bit.
Regardless, the daughter is sublimated by the Kumiho.
It could just be like, oh, you got the 100th soul. Cool, good going. You were human all along.
Do we think we're going to see Gia again? Or
yeah.
Yes.
I feel like no.
Not this season.
Yes.
But I think she may have already been in every single episode.
Well, she's been in a voice on a phone.
She's been on the phone.
Yeah. I think she has the most episodes on IMDb.
Well, but she speaks in the first episode.
Yeah,
she is a vision in the second episode.
The red woman.
But I mean, she may represent that like in the real world, but in that dream sequence, it was a different actress. First, before we move on to the Monte Cristo is back. Did you know that Alexander Dumas was a black man?
No.
Yes.
I did not know that.
I remember hearing something about
his grandmother was a Haitian slave.
Yeah, I think I've like. It sounds like something where I was like, I've heard that.
Or no, I heard the story as Alexander Dumas couldn't get taken seriously and published in certain countries, and he had to go to somewhere else to publish the book. It was a hit because a lot of people mistook it for
France. He went to France.
Yeah, they assumed he was a white French something.
Right, yeah, I just assumed he was a white French guy. I mean, I never read any of his books, but
at the time,
what a Dumas move, Andrew.
I've seen a lot of his movies, and apparently they end differently. So
at the time, I believe Haiti was a French colony.
Anyway, Monte Cristo's back. They talk about it. They bond over it. Apparently, the movie is different from the book, so she was encouraged to read the book. So back to Atticus. I think Atticus can die. Atticus, I think, is the true villain of the story.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Atticus. I don't like him.
I think we're going to discover that Letty is the true hero.
I hope so.
The people we think are villains, which are the Braithwaites or the Braithwaite, she isn't. Christina isn't the villain. Letty's the hero. Atticus is going to be the villain.
Well, here's the thing, though. I'm going to let Zach talk because he made faces.
No. Please explain. Please explain.
First of all, he's not great. Like, we've been questioning him for the entire series. Last week, we were like, I am not agreeing with the things he does. It's all about him. It's all about his hero's quest. And he's such a jock. I'm not making a lot of sense. But this week, come on, Zach.
Yeah, I mean,
this week...
He says, he was just following orders, but that's what the Nazis did not hesitate shooting that innocent nurse in the head. And when Jia sees him torturing her best friend, even though, she was a commie, whatever, she was a spy, he was torturing her. He wasn't like, oh God, I got to pull her teeth out. She was like, he was like Lord of the Flies torturing her.
But that's the whole point that this episode was making, and you just finally heard it admitted to Tick for the first time in this series. Technically, he thinks he's a monster, or he's turned into something he always hated about his dad, something that he said he'd never be,
and he realizes that last episode,
and he realizes under new circumstances he has become the exact thing he feared most. Afraid to become his father, thinking he's better than his father, only to find out, he could be less than, he could be a worse man than his dad when it's all said and done. We know there's something special and weird about Atticus. He is a descendant of Titus Braithwaite. He has something in him. He could have something else. It's all tied into this. After this episode, there could be anything inside.
Atticus is the character in this show that I have the least sympathy for. That's even over Christina Braithwaite. Like, I have the least amount of sympathy for Atticus in this entire movie. I mean, in this entire show, as opposed to every other of our main characters.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of with Audie. I mean, he was really turning me off. But after this episode, after he shot that nurse, like without even hesitation, I was like, done, die. I hope what Jia saw happens. You deserve everything you get.
And you can go back 2 episodes of our recordings and you can see me defending Atticus. So this has happened very recently for me. But with this episode, I washed hands of the whole
I mean, that's so fascinating that it can, I feel like he's
the Benjamin Linus.
I don't know. That's just crazy that there are such different interpretations of the same episode. Like, I really felt like this was a moment for him to realize that the monster inside of him is there, but does not define him.
I could see your interpretation.
Because when he comes back, he knows that monster exists and makes a conscious effort to fight it. As opposed to just ignoring it completely and not thinking that it's even there.
Well, maybe, but he's been a dick almost the entire series.
I mean, he's fighting a monster, Andrew. You fight a monster 24/7 and see how you are.
There's something special about Tick. I don't condemn him for this, and I think it makes him more interesting because the whole thing about him committing atrocities during war, like without forgiving or condemning either of it, he did have a job. He was a soldier. And for countless eons and millennium, that has been the job of soldiers, to kill people. What is being done, he had to do something that is probably the most difficult thing in the world.
A total innocent was sacrificed to out the commie spy.
The whole Red Scare sort of thing. Even being accused of being a sympathizer was essentially a death sentence, especially if you're already in the military. And someone's like, "Oh, you're trying to protect them? You're dead." And it's been that way. It's fear tactics. You have to enforce your policy.
The point is, when you are giving me a story, you got to give me a feeling, and you project that as an actor. And the acting and the feeling that the actor playing Tick in that moment gave me was not an inkling of remorse. Not anything. It was just boom, robot did it, moving. They didn't give me the social cue necessary within a storytelling mode for me to pick up that he was feeling remorse for that.
I just think this show is so good that I see what you're saying about that moment. But for me, the rest of the episode redeemed him. His arc through the rest of the episode redeemed him, just like it did for Gia. But for half of the people watching it, like that's just, and I don't care. It's a TV show. It doesn't fucking matter how we feel about it. It's fascinating that they made us feel so completely different. That's how fucking good this show is.
Good job, Misha Green. Good job, Misha.
So
let's all drink for Misha.
You said that they have to give you an emotion, and you thought that he has no emotion. So the point is, he's at the very end of his tour. He's earned enough points to get shipped home. How many people do you think he's killed up to that point, that it isn't just, this is what happens, it's Tuesday. It's not that like he's an evil person. It's just, sorry, this is how it is.
Again, Tick is redeemable, especially with this episode, because he did a terrible thing.
They don't think so.
He did a terrible thing, couldn't forgive himself, was lying in that hospital bed, and just happened to find the weirdest connection in the universe, and it brought good out of him, you know? And to me, if Tick were that white dude who was pushing nurses away, almost broke her wrist earlier, if Tick was that person, yeah, irredeemable. But he's not. Tick is so deep and has so much feeling and emotion, and that actor is nailing every single
100%.
nostril flare and eye jutting and tear. He is killing it. And Tick might be a monster, but I mean, like he's an amazing hero as well too.
I wanted to talk about types of magic per culture that we're seeing, because there's particular type of magic that like white people have. Then we have like a little bit of the voodoo and the goat slaying and all of that, things that are particular to African Americans, and the Caribbean, yes, and then and you know, Cajun, and then we have the type of magic that we see happen from the witch and from ancient religious, you know, culture happening over in Asia. I like that each culture has its own flavor of magic. It's not just like Wingardium Leviosa everywhere. It's like, you know, it's everybody uses different things to access the magic. Some use language, some use their ancestor spirits, and, you know, things like that. I really like that. That's all I had to say about it.
We were arguing whether or not a Kumiho was just a Korean succubus. She's like, hang on, a succubus implies a demon. I'm like, well, a Kumiho is just a Korean or, you know, Asian folklore demon, like, right?
Mm.
Well, so when I first saw it, I actually thought it was an Aswang, but an Aswang is actually Filipino. My main Aswang is apparently kind of a catch-all. My like first hearing of an Aswang was like a vampire sort of, but it had like a really long tongue. So it could like stay outside of your house and like send its tongue in.
What little I've read about the Kumiho, which by the time you get to the South Korean version, there's not a whole lot of detail that is in this episode, other than it tends to, if it takes a human form, it's female, and it tends to take revenge against men.
It seems very similar to Kitsune, which is Japanese, but Kitsunes tend to be more tricksters and not quite malevolent.
Well, they talked about there's a Japanese version and a Chinese version. I think, like the Japanese version is more benevolent. The Chinese version is more of like a companion. It's the South Korean version that is vengeful. We're the Knights of the Drunk Watch. That does it for us. So we're the Knights of the Drunk Watch. And now our talk has ended.
Thus endeth here.